time will tell, and we'll find out other things that are going on in the world. So I'm gonna bring Rick Rosner in, see what he's got going on the Drudge Report, as well as other things. I saw Dr. Trees popped in, and then he popped out, so maybe he'll pop back in. But I also saw that he's placing it on his venues as well. So that's always good to get other world views and everything like that. I was actually talking yesterday that I was enjoying some time on TikTok with a young Brazilian lady who is an educator. I learned about some people in the field of drama that I did not know, because whenever I meet, I don't know how you are, Rick, but when I meet people from other countries, I like to find out about their culture. So when I found out she was a drama teacher, I asked her what people she would recommend in terms of Brazilian playwrights, and she mentioned a gentleman by the name of Nelson Rodriguez. I think Nelson has passed and everything, and Ariano Sassamo or something like that. Not probably totally mispronouncing the last name, but apparently he's a living Brazilian playwright that is doing quite well and all along those lines. But apparently he has some satire in his plays that are kind of a focus between the way that the North and the South tease each other. Just like we have regional differences, they have regional differences as well. So apparently he was a little harsh, I think, on the Northern people, but don't quote me on which ones he was harsh on and everything along those lines. But tell me what you're finding in the news, because like I said, my computer's having a moment.
The U.S. had its strongest performance, well, the most medals ever, 33.
Okay.
Finished second to Norway, which is the first time we finished second in 20 years. Last time was 2006. And before that, it was 1952. We've only finished first in the Winter Olympics once back in 1932, so more than 90 years ago. And so this was great performance. It was probably also our gayest performance, probably more LGBTQ competitors and medalists for the U.S. than in any previous Olympics.
Well, I did not observe that, but I did when I was talking to those former bobsledders that were part of the U.S. bobsled team back in the 80s. I did observe that in my mind, and I don't know if you noticed the same thing, it was probably not just in terms of orientation, but in terms of race. Not that there was tons of minorities and black and brown people, as Jacoby likes to say, and others do on this network, but it did seem to be the most diverse one, because I think there was a might have been a sister or brother on one of the hockey teams, and might be even on both of the hockey teams, but definitely I know that there was a hockey player that was the speed skater who was also the flag bearer, and there was at least I want to say 4 or 5 African-American athletes that were part of the team. And of course there was some Asian representation. I don't know if there was any Latin representation, but there was definitely one of the more diverse ones that I had seen in years and everything like that. Because I was going like, usually it's just some people may have just said it was just a freckle or a spot here and there and everything for a mostly all white team, but it was definitely more diverse than I had ever remembered in the past.
All right, so it goes back to evolution, where the more northern that having darker skin is an evolutionary adaptation to sunnier, hotter countries. Having whiter skin and having higher body fat is kind of it belongs to countries that are closer to the poles, because people, back when evolution worked better, human evolution is pretty much stopped because anybody can get laid and make babies now. It's not like, but 30,000 years ago when these evolutionary changes were happening, it was easier to survive in northern climates, wintry climates, with having some fat on you and having whiter skin to absorb, when you're cold, it helps to have, anyway, the national characteristic still, Norway, probably, which wins the Olympics. It's won the last, I think, 4 consecutive Olympics, is not the most diverse country in the world.
No,
and the Winter Olympics are less diverse than the Summer Olympics. Some jackass.
Yeah, that's very true. Speaking of the Summer Olympics, I understand that the as I was saying, I was watching, I think it was News Nation, but I understand that the cauldron has been lit and everything like that. So how do you feel about having the cauldron lit? Have you driven by it yet? But I understand
Yeah,
that the
so
cauldron has been lit.
so the next Olympics are in 2 years in Los Angeles, and I'm a
Hmm.
little excited. I hope we figure out how to do something with our homeless population because we have more than 70,000 homeless people in Los Angeles. And I hope what we figure out isn't like unnecessarily cruel to the homeless. And also, I'm kind of looking forward to maybe renting our house out because I feel like when
Mm.
you did that we might be able to get some crazy amount of money for turning it into an Airbnb for the duration of the Olympics.
Yeah, you might be
Um,
able to do that, and that would be a great thing.
but
Yeah. The other thing
let's
that's
go back to like there's a jackass, a conservative influencer named Benny Johnson who said that our with the U.S. for the first time ever won gold in both women's and men's hockey, and in both games went to overtime. So these were great games
right.
and great victories. And Benny Johnson said this is a victory for white culture, which is freaking ridiculous because freaking when you look at who plays hockey, it's like 90, I don't know, 2% white people. It's like, and so people told him to shut the F up. And, you can't, it's just people will be stupid around this stuff. And speaking of stupid,
Yeah,
one
people.
more topic here. Trump wants to spend $38.3 billion buying warehouses and turning them into internment camps, which is more than Hitler spent on his 400 camps in the Holocaust. And if a city finds out that Trump is trying to buy a warehouse in or near their city, they will fight it. They're fighting regardless, conservative, red cities, blue cities, they're all fighting Trump trying to build these 8,000 person holding facilities in their towns. So now they're trying to do it secretly.
So they're trying to do it secretly with money. But
Which leads to World War
Sasha and you, the other thing that I've heard people talking about is this notion of return money and everything like that. Because apparently Trump collected, or the government did, a lot of tariff money, and now people are. I know that some of the money is going back to the big business and everything, but there are some people that are speculating that there may be a refund check coming back to the regular citizens, and all
I
along
wonder
those
how that's
lines. And
going
some
to
people.
work. And so the Trump administration is full of idiots and billionaires, and often stupid billionaires who are not super bothered about returning between 133 billion and 175 billion dollars that was paid by companies and often by consumers, Americans. Tariffs are a tax on Americans because you raise prices on foreign goods and we have to pay more for them. And Trump could have been saved in the midterms by the Supreme Court because if you got rid of tariffs, the economy would bounce back. Virtually no jobs have been created in America since Trump introduced the tariffs back in April. But if the tariffs went away, the economy would experience a boost. But no, Trump immediately, in a fit of pissiness, imposed a 10% tariff across the entire world and then turned around and imposed the maximum tariff allowed by this one law, which is 15% on the entire world for the next 5 months, 150 days, which is most of the time until the midterm. So he's going to fuck our economy for the next 5 months because he's a pissy idiot. Sasha.
What's that sound coming from?
It's somehow it's me on a few second delay. I don't know why. It's coming through somebody.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what that is either. I'm trying to figure it out. But
okay, here's what's happening. Am I on delay now?
I'll mute myself. See if that does.
And do I have delay too?
No, you sound perfectly clear. So go ahead with your.
So
Yeah, I don't hear you lay on my side of your speaking. So just go ahead, Sasha.
okay. Yeah, I think it's okay now. Maybe. So the tariffs deal is the Supreme Court left it uncompleted because there is no decision if this money would have to be paid back, when, to whom, how much, nothing. So we might as well sit on this money indefinitely. There is no obligation of Trump and his administration to pay back this money. It's just as simple as that.
Yeah, that simple and everything like that. Hey, Rick, one of the things that I saw on one of the news reports I was watching over the weekend and everything was this notion, because apparently all the governors did manage to get together. They didn't all, none of them actually boycotted. All 50 governors were there together. They met with the president. Apparently the president got upset when this news of the tariffs came out and ended the meeting abruptly and everything like that. But in hearing an interview with the Oklahoma governor, there was a lot of talk about the rise of state rights and everything like that, because apparently the states are very glad to have their own rights and to even push back on the federal government sometimes and all along those lines. So that's what he was talking about. Apparently there's a effort even with some of the people across the aisles on the governor's side, because I think there was a group of meetings.
States standing up to Trump can be a good thing, but also we got 50 states and some of them have crazy governments. I don't know if this will pass, but Republicans in Tennessee have introduced a bill that you can get the death penalty for having an abortion. That is pretty freaking crazy. So there are upsides and downsides to states' rights. I don't know. You might
definitely, that would be a crazy.
I think the bounce back might be coming from you, Mark. I don't know. What happens if you mute for a second?
I will mute and see what happens.
Okay, I'll just keep talking to see if the bounce back goes away. So it's coming through your system.
Okay. Well, y'all keep talking.
Okay.
I'll mute myself.
Let's go to Drive. So Puerto Vallarta. Sasha, you've been there a lot, right?
Not a lot, but I've been there. Mexico is not my favorite destination, and so last time I was in Mexico, probably 25, maybe even 30 years.
All right. Well, you're not going to be going in the near future because it's on fire. So the Mexican troops, the National Guard, got in a gun battle, killed a cartel leader. They got 25 National Guardsmen got killed. But the cartel
drones were sent. Drones.
Okay.
Killing, yeah.
So the cartel is pissed. So they have been setting tourist hotels on fire and cars on fire. I guess their thinking is, if you're going to screw up our drug business, we're going to screw up your tourist business. So a lot of fires in Puerto Vallarta right now, with tourists hunkering down.
Yeah, the advisory was for tourists not to leave their hotels, stay there. There's no purpose to go to the airport either. So that's what it is.
Yep. I just got off mute.
Okay. Now you're back on mute. Oh, Kash Patel. Let's talk about frickin' Kash Patel. Kash Patel runs the FBI. He's the head of the FBI. Right now there is a famous case going on where Savannah Guthrie's mom, Nancy Guthrie, has been kidnapped now for more than 2 weeks. I think might even be 3 weeks. FBI is supposed to be, on the spot, on the scene, and I'm sure they have officers there trying to get to the bottom of it. But Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, took a private plane to Italy so he could celebrate the men's hockey victory in the locker room with the team at a cost that some people are saying is $400,000. This guy, I mean, so James Comey, remember him? Used to run the FBI. A lot not to like about Comey. He kind of screwed up the 2016 election, but he had some dignity. And you would never see like a regular FBI head pulling this bullshit, slamming beers in the locker room at a cost of hundreds of thousands of dollars to taxpayers. Kash Patel is ridiculous, and he should be hauled in front of Congress and fired. However, there are only 252 days left until the midterms. So, on the other hand, leave the corrupt, incompetent folks in place and see how many votes they lose for the Republicans.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, that on international front, U.S. Is getting more and more despised by all other nations. If you look into tariffs, okay, so he now offered a blank 15% tariffs. But what about many countries that had deals at 10%, including starting with UK? UK had 10% tariffs imposed on by Trump. So now it's becoming 15 instead of 10. Based on what? Just on the whim of one charlatan and criminal? That doesn't bode well for international politics. So all the world is now. You know what's happened in France. That the ambassador of U.S. to French, which is another convicted felon, the father of Kushner. So he was brought to French authorities, who advised him not to meddle into French politics, because he was saying that they have to be tough with the right wing or so on. So anyways, they told him just to shut up. I'm surprised that they even agreed to have a convicted criminal to be ambassador. I think they should.
So wait, he's Kushner's dad as ambassador to France?
Absolutely,
That's
yes.
so crazy, because he's not just a convicted criminal. He's a despicable convicted criminal. He was in a real estate fraud scheme with his brother, and he was worried his brother was going to turn state's evidence. So he hired a hooker to seduce his own brother and get it on video so he could blackmail his brother. And he went to prison for this. And now he's ambassador to France. That is some crazy crap.
Well, he was pardoned by Trump first, and then he appointed him as ambassador to France.
Yeah, I mean, okay, but he still did it. He still blackmailed his brother with a hooker. It's so.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Oh, also Kushner. Another thing he did is he paid $2.5 million to Harvard about 20 years ago, back when $2.5 million was a lot of money, to get his kid, Jared Kushner, into Harvard. So Kushner is very mediocre and didn't have the grades or anything to get in, except with a $2.5 million contribution.
Well, the most interesting thing is tomorrow's State of the Union. It's a great opportunity for Trump. Market is going higher a little bit today, not much. But the most important thing is that there will be alternative State of the Union, so-called People's State of the Union address. Not the charlatans' State of the Union, but People's State of the Union. And guess what? About 40 congressmen and senators already subscribed, and they are going to not only attend, but they are going to do speeches on this People's State of the Union. So there will be a lot of empty seats in front of Donald Trump. Oh, well, that's what's happened when the government of United States is headed by charlatan, convicted criminal. That should not be surprising. Well, uh, that's about it. We'll see tomorrow what's happened on
Yeah,
that.
so not only is there the alternative, but also the other party delivers a reaction to the State of the Union.
Yes, of course.
And they usually screw it up. They usually pick somebody who's not the best communicator, and they do a crap job. I hope this time the Dems don't tumble it, but they probably will. There are some great statistics that a good communicator could share about how tariffs are fucking our economy. Will they come up with those? Will the media cover any? Like, the media didn't even do their job about this latest labor report, which revised the number of jobs created in 2025 down from 584,000 to 181,000, which is 1/8 of the previous year. But they didn't even look further at the statistics and to see that after Trump announced the tariffs for the next 8 months, the last 8 months of 2025, the U.S. created just 12,000 new net jobs, which is a 99% drop. I looked at the statistics for half a minute and found that out. No freaking reporter I've seen has found that super bad statistic.
Rick, wait. The Canadian sanctions haven't even started in full yet. However, Carney had a speech on Tuesday cutting all the supplies for automobile factories in the United States. Ford stopped all production for 1 day. The GM fired a few people here and there trying to mitigate this, because if Canada will go further and will cut supply of aluminum, that will be basically the end. They might as well close all the automotive plants. And Canada is insulated from that because Canada doesn't need American-built cars at all. They just don't need the cars because they have now a supply of Japanese cars. Japanese are building factories one after another. Toyota was first. Now the Honda is building $15 billion plant in Ontario. Now Toyota also is building in Ontario as well. And there will be 49,000 Chinese electric cars. So basically Canada will not even participate in this so-called negotiations of NAFTA agreement coming up in, I think, July. Canada will be out of it. They don't.
Yes, and this means we'll be paying more for so 10% of the parts in a U.S. made car are come from Canada. 9% of the cars bought in the new cars bought in the U.S. are made in Canada, are assembled. And so, yeah, we have no beef with Canada. It's ridiculous. And Trump is screwing us.
What else you want from charlatan? What else? I mean, the guy was 6 times bankrupt. He bankrupt any company that he would start, it would end up bankrupt. What do you want from the guy?
The Supreme Court could have saved him. Trump could have said, if he were not a complete idiot, well, we fought the good fight, but the Supreme Court says we can't do tariffs. I'm sorry, America, I'm working for you. And then the economy would have popped back up. But no, he turned around and he found a different way to impose 15% tariffs on every other country, and it's going to continue to mess us up.
His 15% tariff, the way he's doing it, could actually stick. Unlike the other one we thought was going to go off, and he did lose. The dissents, if you read the opinions, they were looking at the word regulate. In other words, the IIE says he has the power to regulate basically interstate commerce relating to tariffs, but it didn't actually include the word tariffs. It just says regulate. So the Supreme Court made the correct decision striking it down. They did what was not unusual when it comes to damages. If you have a claim, you get to file it. In other words, you have to sue the U.S. government. So the Supreme Court just shrugged their shoulders on claims. In other words, it's your problem. If you paid tariffs you shouldn't have, got to file a claim to get the money back. Now, so what does Trump do? The temper tantrum Trump. He throws the 15% unilateral tariff on everything. So what is that? It's a consumption tax, period. That's what it is. And Europe has had it for years. As a matter of fact, it's not unusual that they have consumption taxes. I don't know if they're as high as 15%, but they're pretty high. That's how they run a lot of their economy.
They call it in England. They call it a value-added tax.
It's a value-added tax. So the thing is, but if you look at consumption taxes in general, they are regressive. They hit poor people, middle class more than do wealthy individuals. Why? Because wealthy individuals have bought everything they need, and they don't consume anything more. They don't eat any more than a poor person does. They don't buy any more cars generally than a poor person does. So it doesn't affect them, but it does affect working class and normal people.
Yeah. Hey, Nick,
so
I don't know if you
paying that 15% tax.
Yeah. Hey, Nick, I don't know if you saw the note that came from Kim as over the weekend and everything, but it was an interesting article, and it actually alluded to something that Sasha was talking about earlier. But apparently, not just Canada, but our neighbors to the south are also upset with us as well. So I know Rick mentioned the raid with the cartel and the killing of the cartel leader, but apparently there's some conversation from some of the Mexican leaders saying, wait a minute, y'all are shipping a lot of guns to us, meaning the U.S. and everything like that, and we don't see you doing anything about your demand, because there would be no problem with drugs coming either from Canada or Mexico if there wasn't a demand for it from your side. So what are you doing on the drug addiction side?
That's right. That's freaking right. The
Yeah,
U.S.
well, that again comes down to a border issue. The border works two ways. So Mexico can secure their borders too when it comes to importing illegal weapons into their country. But apparently they don't. And the blame shifting is, to me, it's much ado about nothing. In other words, Canada can jump up and down. We're going to do this and that. They would be maybe the third biggest economy if it was a state. They wouldn't even be the first or second, or maybe fourth. So no matter what Canada does, they're basically irrelevant when it comes to the United States economy. Mexico, hate to say it, same way. So the economy is going to stand in the U.S. regardless of what these people do.
You say that, Nick, but when was the last time you were, and I don't care whether you were in California, North Carolina, New York, I know you've moved to Spain now and everything like that, and I don't know whether Rick will agree with me or not, but last time I looked at a lot of the construction sites, and there's a lot of construction going on around the world, whether it's in New York City, whether it's in Miami, whether it's in California. A lot of those construction workers are Mexican Americans and other Latin Americans. So if they decided to move, that would be
25 to 30% of construction workers are undocumented immigrants.
Yeah, all right. Okay, well, if they're undocumented immigrants, they shouldn't be construction workers in the United States.
But they are. I mean, you could say,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They shouldn't be, because the thing is, either you're a country of laws or a country of not laws.
But I guess the question I'm asking you, Nick, is if all of them all of a sudden were deported or they left, how would the American construction companies and all of this building that is going on take place? Because that's a sizable portion if 1 out of 4 are gone.
Yeah, well, they would just put other people to work. Realize, you can't speak out both sides of mouth, which happens to liberals all the time. You can't complain, well, unemployment's going up, it's 5%. At the same time, when you remove the illegal immigrants and jobs are open, it could lower the unemployment rate. It could, because now all of a sudden these people have construction jobs that are taken by illegal immigrants.
Americans cannot do construction jobs. They are incapable.
Who can't do construction jobs?
American people.
Oh, Americans
those who are born in America, they are
a lot of people
equipped with the facilities.
There are a lot of people.
They have 2 left hands, and they have absolutely no interest to do construction jobs.
No, America
Period.
is a very, very large country.
Only for immigrants, whether
I hate
legal
to
or
say that.
illegal, doesn't matter.
Hey, Sasha, we have 40 million people that are on welfare receiving EBT benefits. Okay. I can guarantee you that 40 million people, 4 million certainly could do construction jobs.
Nope.
Or 400,000.
Nope.
So the thing is, you're smoking some Canadian weedo.
No,
And so what his policies are, which makes sense.
They are
Don't
not.
get your EBT, go get a construction job.
Hey, I saw your hand, Nick, and everything. But I had a quick question on that same topic and everything.
You know who is going to do construction jobs?
Yeah.
The managers who run the project, the owners who have this project, they are going with their families to do construction. Nobody else will do it.
There's a lot of Americans who can do construction.
No.
Hey, Nick, I got a quick question for you. And I did say Rick's hands and everything along those lines. But my quick question to you is, do you think that we'll bring back, speaking of construction, because there are a lot of people that are in the prison system. I was reading or watching a show not that long ago, and they were talking about the amount of people that were in prisons because some of the poor people and some of the minority people can't afford the legal counsel that some of our rich folks can afford and everything. And I do remember back in the day, I think that there may still be in some parts of the country and everything, the notion of the chain gang. So do you think that that is another way we might get construction going? Will we bring back the chain gangs, and how many states actually have the chain gang?
No,
I mean, you have enough Americans who will work.
There are Americans who will learn construction for $35 an hour. There are fewer Americans who would work construction for $14 an hour under the table.
I agree. That's the problem.
So, and I mean, the construction industry, the home construction industry seems to me to be pretty antiquated. We still build houses the way we did 100 years ago with we put up studs. We got nail guns now and everything, but I think that's an industry that could be disrupted, but if it gets disrupted, then you're going to need fewer construction workers. But there's plenty of things that have given us the housing crisis. It's tough to build in California and other states because we have legitimate concerns about building houses that don't get destroyed in earthquakes or fires. And we have huge investment firms, venture capital firms that buy up thousands of homes so they can flip them or turn them into Airbnbs or rent them, which creates more housing problems.
By the way, speaking of construction industry, the most useful material for that is the lumber. And lumber is purchased from Canada mainly. And without the Canadian lumber, there is no construction industry in U.S.
Oh, yeah.
Without Canadian aluminum, there is no aftermarket production in U.S. You see, you don't understand, Nick. Come back to basis. U.S. Canada much more than Canada needs U.S. U.S. doesn't produce anything what Canada needs. Nothing. After materials will come from Asia, from China, from elsewhere. We don't need American products. There is a boycott in Canada of all American products. Canada is not traveling to U.S. U.S. will go down, and so quickly the midterm election will become a major disaster.
Florida had a record 148 million visitors. We won't miss any Canadians.
No, we don't have any more visitors. We've been banned by other countries, Nick.
So international, let's give it away. Before you go, let me give the statistics. And it's surprising how much we haven't been hurt. But international tourism to the U.S. in 2025 was down 6 to 8.2% over previous years. So yeah, we've lost about 1/12 of our foreign tourist trade, which amounts to what, $25 billion? And we're lucky it's not more, considering how dickish we are being to foreigners.
Yep, I agree with you. Are y'all talking about the Japanese deal that Canada just signed, taking away our manufacturing in Alabama, the car manufacturer, which is $9 billion out of our pocket. Are y'all
That is so far a rumor. It hasn't been substantiated. But yeah, the Toyota was said to have pulled a $9 billion new plant and moved it to Canada. But so far, that's only an internet rumor. It hasn't been confirmed by legitimate news sources.
Well, sometimes you don't have to go there. I can go to CERAWeek and check, because most of the car industry attends CERAWeek, even though it's gas, oil, and energy. That's when I heard about when Biden took office, that he convinced Ford to shut their company in China and move it to Tennessee. So, and that was several years ago. And the only reason why that company has that Ford factory hasn't started the manufacturing, they finished building it, is because of the tariffs. The tariffs are costing them too much. And they're truly regretting their decision to be in America now because of the tariffs. So, I mean, but I found that out at CERAWeek. Ford was there and made the announcement before the news did. So I'll check with CERAWeek.
So here's what AI says. Toyota is not pulling a plant. Instead, Toyota has begun production on a massive $13.9 billion battery manufacturing facility in y'all's state in North Carolina. So congratulations.
Oh yeah, well, because we have the minerals have been mined in our state. All the minerals needed for a battery factory are being mined. Lithium, big time. In fact, nobody believed me until one of my nephews came up to me. He says, "Oh my God, I've been selling equipment to lithium mines like crazy here in North Carolina." He said, "I heard you talking about it, but I didn't believe you." And I'm like, I know nobody believes that I'm connected to certain things, but I do listen and hear a lot with all these resources. But those batteries are very important with the Japanese cars, the kind of batteries that they are.
Yeah, and you need crazy high tech. It's like not like a regular factory you put on overalls and you sit. It's like, I'm sure it's like super clean. You probably have to go through like an airlock, put on one of those white like hazmat type suits. But you're going to get 5,000 people employed in Liberty, North Carolina. I don't know where.
Little bitty town, Liberty. Woohoo! Love it.
People should be buying real estate in Liberty because the population's going to increase.
Well, I noticed Mark just jumped off, so maybe that's what he's doing. Okay. Oh, hey, Mark. But yeah, Liberty, they need, everybody needs some sort of job production source. And, but it will be all manufacturing, and they'll produce it here until it costs too much to produce it here. And then they'll take it back to wherever, because right now it still costs too much. There's too many costs to employing a person, and nobody really understands it until you run a company. But by law, you're obligated, no ifs, ands, or buts, if you have more than 3 employees, you have to buy workers' compensation. Well, workers' compensation is generally 1/3 of the person's paycheck, 1/3. So you have to, and that's not the coverage, okay? That's how much it costs you to buy the workers' compensation. I want to get rid of workers' compensation 100% completely, and have the employers use that money if they are buying you insurance and life insurance, dismemberment and life, accidental dismemberment and life, then they shouldn't have to cover workers' comp. But workers' comp is thrown away because majority of the companies don't ever use it, ever. So a lot of the employers have to buy it, and it's never used. But if you had to buy health insurance and accidental with dismemberment and life, then, odds are your employees are going to use every bit of it somewhere. So
here's another story. A guy was shot dead at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
Showed up with a gun, was upset about the Epstein files. In cases like this, each side tries to find out whether the guy was MAGA, or whether he leaned right or leaned left, so the other side can accuse that side of turning people into maniacs. So
does it? I forget. I had it written down. Where is he from? I didn't
And
bring my. Where he came? They had it mentioned. Where
he's
he
from
came.
North Carolina. Apparently, the last two people are from North Carolina.
Yeah. So
congratulations.
He's from North Carolina.
You're dominating the news lately.
Well, we believe in guns first off. So and but yeah, but they were able to stop him before he killed anyone. But the question is why, right? Why would he do that? And sometimes I wonder about some of these.
Why did he go there and everything like that?
Yeah, sometimes it's kind of like Trump's almost assassination. I have to wonder if it was staged, because he never looked like he really ever had his ear shot, although, good plastic surgery, but he stood up right after he was shot. Who does that? You're shot, you go down and you stay down.
Right, so people know, people who know how bullets work know that he wasn't hit with a bullet, and he was most likely hit with shrapnel, like the teleprompter that people used to give speeches it's a sheet of like plexiglass that reflects the words into your face but isn't visible. It's anyway. He probably got hit with a fragment of plexiglass that cut his ear, because if you get hit with a bullet, the sonic damage of a bullet going 1,200 feet per second past, it will bruise the whole side of your head. And so not a bullet, though there is a picture of a bullet whizzing by his head during that assassination attempt. Not one that
whizzed by. It whizzed by. It didn't, and it hit. And the bullet.
The assassin got off 7 or 8 shots before he was killed.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, you're right, and it did kill somebody else. So but I feel like it was more staged than it was anything else. It's like they're now finding records and documentation that's being submitted that, Trump paid for the rioters to be there at January 6th. They're starting to find the documentation about that. So, it's a lot coming out right now. But my thing that bothers me the most is we've had an investigation done for over 20 years, evidence, supporting accused, and none of the accused have been arrested or brought to trial. And that's in the Epstein files. And there's hundreds, if not thousands, of men who participated in the illicit activities. There's evidence that has always supported it, and not one of them have been arrested or detained or tried. And they all of them should be. We just need to wipe that slate clean and move on. And I want to see.
That's why apparently this 21-year-old kid who gets shot trying to invade Mar-a-Lago was upset about the Epstein files.
Yeah. Well, and
so this guy's name is Austin Tucker Martin, 21 years old, now dead, and he was sending like text messages to his coworkers. I don't know if you read up on the Epstein files, but evil is real and unmistakable. The best people like you and I can do is use what little influence we have. Tell other people about what you hear about the Epstein files. This is the kid who showed up, was sending.
The most interesting thing I came across one of the internet resources, they came up with the new terminology, Epstein class, because all these pedophiles and all these enablers, they are all tied together.
Thank
they
you.
all together. So
the enablers are the ones who haven't done anything. They look the other way. Thank you, Sasha.
Well, this is why expectations that some of these people will be brought to justice, the chances are very slim at the best, because it would require the pedophiles sue themselves, and that's something what very difficult to believe. It's only next administration, if this one will be voted out and the next administration will take power, then it could become a possibility.
So you have enablers, and you probably also have vicarious enjoyers, people who were on the, maybe on the fringes of this whole thing, who heard about it, but liked hearing about it and didn't do anything about it. In Hollywood, I worked for some very upstanding people who behaved very well, didn't do any of this shit. But I would hear third-hand stories about people, like, who's secretly gay, who, has three ways. And I'd be like, oh, interesting. And I'd tell my wife, and in a way, we are tolerating bad behavior that way.
But, anything that is consensual, maybe that's not such a bad thing. But when it's forced on people, when it's intentionally harming and dangerous to people, then I think we're wrong for not stepping in. But when when you're, and rumors just aren't good either, but the thing is when you have things that are happening that are dangerous, these Epstein files should have been, all these people should have been arrested. Just the accused. There are a lot of people in there that are not accused. The children did not accuse Bill Clinton. The children did not accuse, certain celebrities, and some of the celebrities were just name dropped by Epstein, and the witnesses testified, well, yeah, he was on the phone with Bruce Willis when I was talking to him, or yeah, he was on the phone with XYZ when I was talking to him. So those names got into the files because they were witnessed. But and you have to read the court records. You just need to read them to see why I say it this way, because not everyone that is listed, there are 1,000. He had names in his black book, and they were just, acquaintances. They weren't business people. And this is what I tell people: follow the flow of the money, because they have all the bank records, and a lot of the bank records were submitted into the court records. You can read them. And if you follow the flow of money, if somebody was paying him, and truly his business model was you had to set up a nonprofit and charity, but if money flowed to him, odds are they're paying him to participate.
What we found out is that rich people like getting free stuff as much as other people do. And Epstein would loan you his plane. He didn't care. So, Bill Clinton's like, I need to fly someplace, and he'd have his assistant call up Epstein, I assume, and yeah, he'd get to use the plane and fly places. Clinton was on the flight logs like 23 times for flights that if he had to pay for those things, it'd probably be 20 grand a flight on a private plane. Trump used his plane. Was in the flight log 7 times. The guy is giving out free private plane, flights. Trump even bought or leased the Epstein jet when his broke down during the 2024 campaign. Trump was flying on the Lolita. Yeah. So it's hard to. We need more investigation. You
don't need more investigation. It's done. You can read it. You can read all of that.
But somebody has to plow through the millions of documents and present clear conclusions. For instance, there's a celebrity chef who is kind of tossed in with the whole deal because he was a good chef. He was hired to work on Epstein Island. Now, that guy, did he see stuff? Did he know what was going on? Or was he too busy cooking?
Well, if you read the court records, which I did, he was required to sign an NDA that he could not speak about anything that he saw on the island, but that he testified that he was never in the vicinity where any activity that they discussed, that people have talked about, he was never in that vicinity. He cooked the food and then he was, sent back home. And if you look at the flight records, he pretty much made, I'm not going to say round trips, but they were close to being, he would go out to the island, probably prepare a bunch of meals and then come back. So you have to look at some of those details. And again, like I tell people, look at the way the money flowed. Epstein was paying him. But did he see something that he could have reported? Even the pilots lied on their manifest or covered up on their manifest because they would write on the manifest, and you can see it: male, female, 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 child, Ghislaine, and then not Ghislaine, and then Epstein. Right. They would just not even name names. And so you have to look at that too. And I thought that was pretty illegal, which is why the pilot's probably has been detained, and because his name's Larry, I can't pronounce his last name, but yeah, and Larry was a partner with Epstein, and they owned more than one plane, and they owned more than one company. And from what I can see, they only pulled the manifest of 3 companies. So I think that there's more plane companies that they need to pull manifest for. That's just my opinion. But
I wouldn't encourage any further investigations while the pedophiles rule United States of America.
Thank you.
It's not going to work. Wait until the pedophiles will be gone. So then, only then, you can conduct some meaningful investigations, even if it's late or so on, but it would make at least some sense. Right now, no, it doesn't make any sense. It will be even further waste of American money and time and minds. Just don't do it. You don't need that.
No, and I'm thankful that I found the court records that I found before they redacted them, because they came in and started redacting them back in the end of July. And I had downloaded them not because I thought they were going to redact them. I thought these were too far removed. But I downloaded them because it just made my life easier to read them. But I kept the links to the court files. But there were a lot of court records, and those court records cross-referenced with the DOJ investigation because they talked about it with the judge. They had to ask the judge for permission to share information. So there's a lot of information out there, but it's millions and millions and millions of pages, and goes out millions of different ways, and it gets very confusing. That's why I did a timeline. That's why I listed the names, so that I could at least keep up with it for myself. It was never intended for me to share it with anyone, but I am now. But what I'm telling people is take a look for yourself, because majority of the people who are saying, they say one item and they only talk about one item when there's a whole slew of things that pertain to that, like Andrew being arrested. And, Nick, you and I talked about this. Andrew was released without charges, but still being investigated. But Andrew did huge settlements with his victims. Prince Andrew did. And does doing settlements remove him from any responsibility and liability of being accountable for the crimes against them? Or is pedophile crime have no forgiveness? Like, Nick, what can you share with us a little bit about the law? Nick is
distracted for a second.
Nick's doing work and everything like that. But
anyway,
I know
I was curious about that because everybody was talking about, hey, Prince Andrew was released. Well, they can't hold somebody, but I think when someone has done a settlement, and I don't know 100%, but I would like to know, is if they did a settlement, does this prevent them from being arrested for that crime? Is it this like a what they call it, where you can't be tried twice? Nick?
I'm not qualified to opine on British legal matters.
That's not. Oh yeah,
I'm
that
not
is British.
Before
That
the
is
Commonwealth. There are some attorneys that are, and actually I could take a bar. There's actually a bar you could pass, but I never went and did that. So I have no clue.
Kim, when in reading all these documents that you read, so there's been a lot of, some talk that Russia was financing some of the shenanigans because Russia is happy to turn people into perverts and get damaging information on them.
John Mitchell introduced Epstein to contractors who gave him pretty much a badge to go to other countries. They said it was a CIA badge. If you go back and look at William Barr, who was an AG for Trump, but also he represented Epstein for many, many years. Well, he also was engaged with working with the CIA at one time. Well, he goes way back with Epstein, back to when they were in their early 20s, when Epstein got his first job at William Barr's dad's school, where his dad was the headmaster. So they have been together. So yeah, there is, whispered rumors, but it was like way before all of this. You have to go dig and find the documentations, and that rumor came out back in 2006 when Alex Acosta was the district attorney, the prosecuting attorney against Epstein. But instead of doing what he should have done, he negotiated out for Epstein illegally. It was illegal. And but you have to go look at that. But Alex was told that Epstein was part of the government and secret services. So that's the reason why he did what he did. So you have to kind of go look at all of that evidence. But yeah, John Mitchell introduced Epstein, it's in all their calendar books and everything, to the contractors who would have hired people for the CIA. And they said that Epstein used his badge a lot. It's being rumored more now than it was way back when, that they were using, big hotel chains to traffic children in. So
all right, here's one more story before the hour ends. We're still in a partial government shutdown. I think it's primarily affecting DHS, Department of Homeland Security. The employees aren't getting paid. It's led the government to try to shut down TSA pre-check at airports, where you've paid a fee to go through your check like more easily, and they've decided they shut that down. Now they've brought it back. But anyway, there is still a partial government shutdown.
Yeah, and Delta closed up most of their flights last week. We flew through just fine, but you can see some chaos going on. But I think the good people, the hardworking people, really are holding things together, and they are the glue of all the damage that's being done and keeping things running smooth. Thank God. But anyway, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Rick, Jatovi, Sasha, Mark, thank you for holding down the fort here. Nick, we'll see you on the next show. Everyone take care until tomorrow. Stand strong.